In April of 2004, a group of community volunteers from Lockport, New York, came together with their camcorders and spent some time videotaping the people, places, and happenings of the Lockport area. They came back with some fascinating pictures and wonderful stories. This is Our Town, Lockport. Broadcast of Our Town Lockport is made possible by the generous philanthropic support of the Greg Lewis Foundation. The Greg Lewis Foundation, supporting charities in Western New York for over 35 years. Sponsorship provided by
Lockport Mattress Company. We love to make your bed.
And by Grand Tours, offering nationwide deluxe motor coach charters, and Ridge Road Express providing local school bus service, owned and operated in the Lockport area for over 75 years. And by Lockport Community Cable Commission and Lockport Community Television, celebrating 20 years of providing quality local programming to area cable subscribers. Additional support provided by Pruden and Cant Funeral Home Incorporated. And by the members of WNED. Thank you.
My name is George Kugler, and the topic that I chose was the prominent bridges in Lockport. There's actually 9 pedestrian or traffic bridges, and there are 2 railroad trestles. The Triway Bridge used to be a regular structural bridge that went north-south on the transit, and the reason they call it the Triway Bridge is they made a little bypass coming from transit to West Genesee, so you didn't have to go up to the light and turn. The big bridge is probably what it's renowned for in Lockport is it was the widest bridge in the world. It's one continuous structural bridge, and actually the roads go diagonally across it. And on one side is now anchored the new city hall and the fire department, and on the other side, St. Mary's Church, which is a predominant feature. The Pine Street Bridge, that has a lot of structural piping that goes back and forth. And the bridge actually performs a dual function, not only for traffic, but also for passing utility material. Also, right at the corner of the Pine Street Bridge on the south side is the old City Hall, a stone building. And you'll see that actually has a very good view when you're on that bridge of being able to look down on the new Lock 34 and Lock 35 on the canal. That was a railroad trestle, which was very prominent in transporting goods from the western side of Niagara County and from Tonawanda. And it looks like when you look at it that the bridge was built upside down. The structure that would be facing the top is on the bottom. The next one, I believe, is the Exchange Street Bridge. It's one of the 2 lift bridges. And also the next one, which is the Adams Street Bridge. The 2 bridges, when they're up, there's walkways on each side of these bridges that will allow people, if they didn't want to have to wait for the bridges and the traffic to go through to come back down again, they could walk up and walk across and walk down again. The Somerset Railway Bridge is really a unique and engineering marvel in that it has to make a 22-degree turn as they come from one side of the bridge going over the gorge and to the other side, and then going north through Newfane to the Somerset on the Lake Ontario. There's a Lake Avenue Bridge, which is now called the Joseph Vallejo Bridge. It's not a structural bridge, it's not a steel bridge now, there's cement with asphalt. That's the one now. It goes right over the canal, right to Reid's, which I think is going to be mentioned in here too. So a lot of paths go different ways, but they all end up in the same place.
Reid, I shot Reid's Drive-In.
Hi, can I help you?
Yeah, I want a cheeseburger fried or medium drink.
All right.
My father and my uncle started Reid's in 1945 or thereabouts. And when he first started, he didn't open all year. He was only open in the summer. And people used to figure spring was here or summer was here when Reid's opened. But now we're open all year long, so.
John, for here to go.
Cheeseburger sauce, hamburger, sliced fry.
Plain red fry. Ordering 3 cheeseburger sauce, 3 fry sauce to go.
One of the reasons we are quick is because our menu is small. We don't have a large variety on there, although there's a large variety of ways to get your food. 90% of the food coming off the grill are cheeseburgers. And just cheeseburgers. And then we have our own sauce, which is and been around for quite a while. When I was a little kid, I remember the 4 pans sitting on the stove every time I walked around there. I never knew what was in them, but there was always these big pans sitting on the stove. My mother was always cooking it. Food's good, price is cheap, and the service is good and quick. Reid's is just part of Lockport. I mean, it's always been here.
My name is Lester Robinson. I do the local media because Lockport has its own local paper, Union Center Journal, its own local radio station, WLVL, and the LCTV station, which is a local cable, which in the country we got the 5th best public access TV station. There are many things going on at the LCTV studio. I did 2 shoots, one that Marion Hannigan had Marion Roseberg on for community, for the college was putting it on. And then I shot Greg in the control room. And then from there, I went upstairs to the big control room, which punch out is channel 20, 21, and 22, which is all the local programming. I actually sat in on the taping of the Dale Association.
The color of this doesn't change at all, right?
Not at all, no. And what's nice is that you can tune.
We were doing the remote van shooting, and we had a band come in at Zapp's Emporium, and I taped the location of the van shot inside the Emporium. And then I went down into the van and taped from the back of the van.
Somebody get those sacks. Sacks is going real quick. Somebody get the sack. 1 is on. Ready? 4? 4 is on. 4 is on.
I went to the newspaper, Lockport Union Sun and Journal. The paper has been in since 1830, so the paper's been around for like 170 years. And I taped the whole office from the front to the back. And then I did one of the cameramen. I did him working with his camera and reviewing.
Good morning. Welcome to Dial a Deal.
WLVL, which is locally owned, it's actually the only local radio station in Niagara County. I went to the Easter egg hunt today. I went with Anna from WLVL. She's the weekend news person.
And how's the turnout this year compared to?
With the rain.
I think it gives the public a point of view. It keeps the public still involved in the community. You're not having some organization that's out in Phoenix, Arizona, that's telling people what to do locally. This is locally, people are on the staff, they live in the community, they're part of the community. If there's something that evolves that can affect the community, these people will get behind it and say this isn't good or this isn't bad. You're not dealing with someone out of the area that doesn't really care.
My name's Doug Michauski. I'm a middle school art teacher at North Park Middle School in Lockport. And I shot a video of the Market Street Art Center. I think it's a terrific thing to have like a little art colony right here in Lockport. Well, there's just about every kind of art that you can imagine being created in there. There's watercolorists, which I am one of those. I also do oils and acrylics, but there's also abstract artists, surreal artists. There's an artist named Joe Berquist who he does found art. I mean, he finds other people's trash and turns it into art. The upstairs gallery, Toni Phipps is an artist in the studio. Some might think her art is very different. I mean, it is very different. You don't see that kind of art every day. Carl Hurt, he's a very fine artist. He paints in oils for the most part, and he does a lot of scenes with water. I mean, I've seen very few artists that can depict water the way he does. The chainsaw artist is Art Hilger, and he's part of the family that bought the building. And I asked him today why he did this, and he said, he has to do something since he's been retired. So he pulled out a chainsaw and started carving up logs. It's free of charge. You just walk in when everything's open, and you can wander through the building and just look at all the art and chit chat with the artists, and they're usually working in their studios. It's a great thing to do on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon. Art is in everything that we do. What you wear, what you buy in the store, what makes you pick something over another thing on the shelves in the grocery store. It's just everywhere. What people leave behind is what you really learn from.
My name is Nancy Babis, and I shot the Keenan Center grounds and all the things that the Keenan Center offers our community. Mr. Keenan actually was a businessman, and he owned Western Block in Lockport back in the old days, and he also was a farmer. The house is a Victorian era, 1850s. It was built in Italian style initially, and actually the first house burned down, and all but 2 walls of it burnt. And so Mr. Keenan purchased it and rebuilt it. Mr. Keenan had a philosophy that he felt that a person needed to be very well-rounded. So they offer spiritual things, physical things in the arena, and also education and ongoing learning products. The education building is actually a converted carriage house, and in 1986, I believe, started the daycare center. And actually it's a preschool program for 3- and 4-year-olds.
Right, I said that's a lot. Yes, it's all clear. I said it's all clear. Now look. What is going on?
The Keenan Center has 3 groups of affiliates. The Taylor Theater Group. 4 Seasons players are the resident theater group there. And they do 3 shows in a year. They have great cast, lots of members of the community. They've done everything from musicals to satires to you name it, they've done it. Another affiliate group is the Keenan Herb Club. And the Herb Club keeps the gardens, well, not just the gardens, but they have an herb garden. And it's really extensive. It's one of the best in the area when it's in bloom. The Keenan Quilt Guild was started in 1984. And since then, it has expanded. There's about 100 women that belong to the Keenan Quilt Guild. We do shows every other year, and we have over 300 quilts in our shows. They have really promoted it as a living center, and the house has such architectural beauties in it. There's marble fireplaces in each of the main rooms. There's gilded ceilings, gold gilded in the ceilings. The mahogany staircase is absolutely gorgeous. It's just a beauty to go see, and it's open to the public, free of charge. It's always been a part of my life. I feel that my life actually started there. My children have gone to the programs there. They've been in the sports programs and the educational programs. And currently I'm a member of the Keenan Center Quilt Guild, and I get a lot of energy out of that, a lot of creative energy, a lot of peacefulness.
My name is Bob Reiderer, and I shot the Town Lockport Historical Society's 1873 one-room brick schoolhouse. And I also photographed the Niagara County Historical Society Museum, the Underground Railroad at the YWCA in Lockport. This structure was built in 1873. The Pomeroy family donated it to use as a school. And it's all brick. It was operating until about 1954, when they ended these rural schoolhouses and sent all the children to the schools in Lockport, in the cities. Yeah, well, the thing is that they taught all 8 grades in one room. That must have been a challenge. And next I went to the Niagara County Historical Society Museum on Niagara Street, a 6-building complex. And there's an exhibit there on the Lockport glass. The Sutherland sisters, Tuco jigsaw puzzles, which were made here in Lockport. Washington Hunt, the first governor of New York from west of the Hudson, had a law office in Lockport. And it's a brick building, and it has been moved to the grounds of the Historical Museum on Niagara Street. The inside of this gentleman's office has still got his old desk and his writing paraphernalia and things like that. And from there we went out to an old barn with these different old carriages. Some of these carriages were made by the Bronson Carriage Factory, which was here in Lockport. And from there we proceeded into the other building where there's an exhibit of the Tuscarora Indians and the first air-conditioned car. It's a 1954 Pontiac. And from there we went out to the first brick house in Lockport, built by a gentleman, William Bond, who was a speculator. And in those days, it was probably like walking into a mansion because the other buildings were all made of wood and probably maybe some of them were made of stone. I visited the YWCA, a stone building on Cottage and Walnut Street in the city of Lockport, to investigate the Underground Railroad. I was guided there by a lady named Janet Howard, who took me upstairs to where these fugitive slaves were hiding. But in back of that room, there's a crawl space, and the original door is still there, and that is where these fugitives hid.
Well, this is the area that the runaway slaves would be held in, and it must have been a very dark and very uncomfortable place to be held.
And it's all part of the Lockport history, and I think it's something that we should remember and preserve.
I'm Mary Brown. My name is Toni Parada, and we did the churches of worship in Lockport. Every church has a story, whether it's an older building or one of the newer ones, and so it just certainly is where everyone comes together. Well, First Presbyterian is probably the oldest organized church in Lockport. They have Tiffany windows, and the Nicodemus window is one of my favorites because it appears that his lantern is always lit. We were lucky enough to be there when the choir was practicing. St. Patrick's, it's been there for 141 years, along with the Sisters of St. Mary Namor, who came to town and have been teaching ever since. We were lucky to hear the choir and even got to see the beginning of a Mass. Second Presbyterian Church on Van Buren Street. It's the oldest cut stone church. It's right off the canal banks, and the people of their church actually cut the stone during the time the canal was being built and carried it and built the church themselves. They built all the furniture, the pews, everything that was within the church, and it cost $5,000 to build this wonderful stone building at the time. St. Joe's, the first church was built and opened in 1912, and the newer church was built in the 50s. In the front, there's a original sculpture of St. Joseph the Worker done by Timothy P. Schmaltz from Kitchener. To actually have an original sculpture in our community that's part of a church, to me, was an outside piece. Yeah, It's outside. Is something that everyone can enjoy. The Assembly of God Church is a very small church. It has a very unique cross made of glass block. And when we were shooting, of course, the pastor lives next door. And he told us that the original church had been made from a chapel that was disassembled at Camp Drum, brought then to Lockport and reassembled. Think of church, you think of, Sunday masses or celebrations, but almost every church is almost a campus with different buildings that house continuing education in religion for adults, the education for the youth of any given church, so much community involvement. They're trying to bring church more than just Sunday. There's activities going on all week long in the different churches. They do community fundraisers and service programs, and they're just a community there. It's wonderful to see how they involve everybody. They're all just so outstanding because of the people, not just the buildings, but the people.
My name is Bill Honecker, and our part of the project was the locks in Lockport. Originally, the locks that were completed in 1825, it was a double set of locks, and that was actually the only double set of locks in the barge canal system at the time, and they had to use 5 locks to get up to the height that they needed. There was almost a 60-foot elevation that they had to achieve, so the original locks that were built were probably about a 12-foot raise in each lock. So when the locks were modernized in the 1900s, so they eliminated the eastbound section of locks. The westbound section is still there, and it's actually the original locks. So it's really a neat spot to go because you can actually see the locks as they were in 1825. The newer locks are 34 and 35. They're just double locks to raise to the level because they could do, at the newer technology, they could raise a boat up to that 50-foot or 60-foot raising that they have to do with these new locks. They're a lot wider. They're approximately 43 feet wide. You can get a boat in there that's 300 feet long. In the off season, most people think the locks, there's nothing going on there, but actually during the off season, most of the men that actually operate the locks during the season are there doing the maintenance on the locks.
What I have here is a contactor board. This is about 90 years old. This is an electrical component which controls our valves and our gates. This one's just been rehabbed, polished, and it's about ready to be reinstalled.
The canal is probably the biggest engineering feat that was ever accomplished in the 1800s. It's like was never done before. There was the opening up the west to the immigrants and basically to commerce. There was no way through the Appalachian Mountains before that time. It's just like it was probably one of the biggest parts of our country's development.
My name is Wayne Hilton. I live in Lockport, and I shot the local vineyards and wineries that are located around Lockport. Chapone's has been operating since 1999-2000, but their family history dates back 237 years all total. Chapone was doing some bottling of the very last of the 2003 crop that had been in the fermentation tanks and holding tanks, and so he was ready to bottle. And so he was putting out a nice wine that day. And actually, the whole process begins out in the vineyard. One of the chemists commented to me that about half of the quality of the grape of the wine is on the vine, and the rest is, in the pressing. The chemists will go out, and or the farmers will go out and pull grapes off the vine, and check them well before they're going to be going to bottling. And depending upon the acidity or the sugar content, they can adjust or know how to adjust the wine itself based on the types of yeast they're going to use or the type of fermentation they're going to use, how long, what chemicals to add to it, and then know ahead of time, how they can reconstruct the flavor profile for that particular wine. Warm Lake Estate produces what they call world-class Pinot Noir. And that happens to be their philosophy, is to obtain that distinction of having, a world-class Pinot Noir. And their approach is that of a green approach to viticulture. They don't use pesticides. They don't use herbicides. They try and keep everything natural. And matter of fact, they use old world technology in terms of their winemaking. Niagara Landing has several varieties of wine. Today was a pressing day for them also, so we had the opportunity to see some bottling going on there as well. And their bottling is similar to that of Chapone's. However, they're still using manual methods. They believe that the real hands-on experience is something that can be trusted, and so they don't want to let go of what works. Niagara Landing's premium wine, their best-selling wine, is called Boxer Blush, and on the label you'll see Arthur, the boxer, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but his son Oliver is in the shot, and he's going to be carrying on the Arthur tradition as the new Boxer Blush. When your wine goes out there and starts to win awards, that means that commercially it's a viable, sellable wine, and it becomes in demand. And we have some of the best wine growers around. Grape growers around, vintners around. Pick a word and go with it.
I'm Peter Whitmore. I shot the topic of stone homes in the city and town of Lockport. It was an interesting topic for me personally because of my family history, from our family stone quarry to the construction of many of the stone homes in the Lockport area. My approach to this topic was basically the sources of stone that were used to build the stone homes in Lockport. The original and first, of course, was the canal itself. The second source of stone was, of course, quarry stone, which was quarried and finished cut. Another source was field stone. The fourth source was cobblestone. Being part of the Ontario Plain, there was a considerable source of smooth stones in the area for cobblestone homes. The sandstone marker that is erected at Packet Park in Lowertown. Came out of our quarry, our family quarry, and is a prime example of Medina sandstone that was peculiar to the escarpment area from Albion through Lockport. The home at 101 Monroe Street on the corner of Gooding and Monroe was built by my great-grandfather, Charles Whitmore. He built the house in 1850 from Medina sandstone. It's one of the few homes in Lockport that's constructed entirely of Medina sandstone. All finish cut with very finely tooled mortar joints. And it's done in a Victorian style with steeply gabled roofs. At one time there was over 200 stone homes in Lockport. There's only approximately 74 left in the city. So obviously we've lost quite a few over the years. So my family history was important to me in presenting this presentation on stone homes in Lockport.
Well, I'm Dietrich.
I'm Floyd Huntington.
And we shot a local indoor sporting track called Speedway Park.
Speedway Park is an indoor racetrack for racing go-karts. There's only, 18 like it in the country, 3 in the state of New York. The track is 150 foot long by 100 foot wide, concrete indoor racetrack, oval track. They check the cars out just about every day for, they check the oil, nuts and bolts, make sure everything's tight. They put gas in them. They go through about 2.5 tanks a day, so they're looking them over quite a bit.
You have to be 54 inches or taller in order to reach the pedals and see over the steering wheel. And that's about it, actually. Anyone, there's young and old that can drive. I think they were telling me the youngest one they've ever had driving was 12 years old. They hold a benefit race for Mercy Flight every year since, pretty sure that since they opened. The first benefit race they held, they had 68 drivers. And this last one, that would be the 4th annual, they had a total of 80 drivers for the second day and 78 for the first day.
They have a snack bar, video arcade for those kids who might not want to race. But at the same time, you can watch the race. There's a whole wall on the front of the room that's nothing but windows facing the racetrack. So you can just sit down and, grab a slice of pizza or popcorn or whatever, sit down and watch the race.
The WKA, the World Kart Association, said that the Speedway Park in Lockport was the most competitive track they've been to.
I'm Jason Torreano.
I'm Joanna Torreano, and we chose to shoot Tom's Diner. Any time that we've gone in there, we always felt so welcome.
It's clean, you got good food, you have nice people, and it's a nice step away from a lot of the chain stuff that you see nowadays. When we were there, we had one of the artists who has done a lot of the portraits on the wall. He spoke to us about some of the portraits that he's done and how it was really a teamwork between him and the owner. A little bit of everything for everybody, and I think Tom really wanted that when he was thinking up the concept for this place. He has pictures of Marilyn Monroe, he has pictures of Joe DiMaggio, I think.
The Fonz.
And the Fonz, Kramer from Seinfeld, The Simpsons. So it's got stuff for, I think, every age group in there, and I think Tom really put an emphasis on that.
Just the whole atmosphere of he wants you to be there. It was his dream to do something. He accomplished his dream, and he's just helping you relax and enjoy yourself.
My name is Norman Taylor. I shot a piece on the Lockport City Police Department and the fire departments. Basically, I just took some shots of the fire department, which is located outside of the municipal building at One Locks Plaza. I took a shot of the fire engines and also paramedic ambulances because our fire department has the capabilities of doing both. Not only the firemen and trained in fire prevention, they're also trained paramedics. To have a person educated like that is a great thing to have. A good key point of history is a guy named Birdsall Holly, who started the Holly Manufacturing Company right here on the canal here in Lockport. It actually is one of the reasons why we have fire hydrants in the U.S. today and all throughout the world. The police department, not only are they, community advocates, but they're brave people. Officer Doug Hack has been involved with the DARE program. He does things outside of police work. Just recently, I went with him to an honorary starters Cub Scout Pinewood Derby race. That's absolutely excellent to have an officer, interact with the public that way. Every city across the U.S. and in the world has a police and fire department. And I think we're starting to realize in today's, after the, terrorist attacks on September 11th, that how important police and fire departments are in every city. These are a great bunch of people. They should be recognized for the hard work, bravery, and the intelligence that they have.
My name is Kathleen Michauski, and we shot houses, the Habitat houses in Lockport, in the Lockport area. Habitat for Humanity is a Christian-based organization, and we try to provide homes for people who would otherwise not be able to afford a home. The majority of them are in the city of Lockport, and they're 3 or 4 bedroom homes, and they're ranch houses, and then there was a couple of them out in Gasport. We have volunteers from all aspects of the community, bankers, businessmen. We have people who just want to donate their time, and builders, and everybody is more than welcome. We find jobs for everybody on the site. Most of the families that we select, they've never even imagined that they would be able to one day own a home. And now they have not only built the home with their own hands, but now it's theirs. It's their dream house. So it's very exciting.
My name's Nanette Harmon, and I chose to do schools and education in Lockport. So much of what we know and are familiar with in education in general in this country started in Lockport. Unified school districts run by a school board started here in Lockport. Secondary education had never been done before. That started here. I mean, I was amazed. I had no clue. Now our public school system, we have 8 elementary schools, and we pride ourselves on the fact that they've maintained the neighborhood concept. There are a lot of children that walk to school. Those 8 elementary schools go into 2 middle schools, Emmett Belknap and North Park, and then those 2 middle schools eventually go into our high school. We have one relatively large high school. There's about, not quite 2,000 students there. We also have some smaller schools. There's Christian Academy of Western New York, and that's housed in the commerce section of downtown Lockport. And I found a historical connection to that back in the 1800s. That is typically where some of the other schools would be found. Small schoolings would be housed in, just like they would rent rooms and stores and that kind of thing to hold school for smaller groups of people that weren't into, say, the public system. And also on the outskirts of town, we have St. Peter's Lutheran, North Ridge, and I took a drive out there. It's just a charming little rural community. They have about 40, 45 students, and they're serving a small group of people, but they have thrived since before World War II. So really, there's a lot of choices. And then, of course, where we are today at DeSales, and DeSales has going on, 500, 600 students, and educating K through 8, and there are a lot of choices here. The whole history of Lockport education has been a success story, but so well rooted in the past, both our public and our private, our small schools, the secular schools. I was amazed. So it's more than reading, writing, and arithmetic. Yeah, I definitely think we're headed in the right direction.
My name is Greg Larson, and my subject matter for today was the Lockport cruises and the Lockport caves.
Sit back, relax, and we'll be leaving just momentarily.
The canal cruises are really a lot of fun. They pack a lot of history in a short amount of time. When you get on the boat and enter the boat, you take off, head up the canal, and almost immediately you're presented with the infamous inverted upside-down trestle which trains travel across. And you head on up the canal, and you almost relatively quickly you enter the locks, locks 34 and locks 35, which bring you up approximately, I believe it was 49 feet up into the next level of the locks. And then you exit those locks, You travel up the locks and you go under what a lot of people that don't know, even people that live in Lockport, one of the widest bridges in the world. You turn around and you head back down. Thinking perhaps that your cruise is ending, you'll pass right by the conference center, right by Lockport Cruises, and head on up and have the opportunity to go not only under one lift bridge or expansion lift bridge, but two lift bridges, the Exchange Street Bridge and the Adams Street Bridge, and continue on to Widewaters Marina, where you turn around and then you make your return voyage back to the cruises. There was a brunch there the day that I was there. There's also a gift shop that's set up inside the conference center. When I was down at the Canal Cruises, I had the opportunity to go through one of the old historic buildings that Mr. Murphy's in the process of renovating and turning into a historic museum, complete with a lot of canal memorabilia, posters and photographs and old parts to boats, like wheels and navigation equipment and things of that nature are all located down in this historic building, which used to be part of the Lockport Block and Tackle Company. The Lockport Caves are is roughly a 1,600-foot series of caves that were blasted through the stone underneath the city of Lockport to utilize the water that would be output from the canal, the locks opening and closing. That water was utilized and formed a hydraulic raceway that was used to generate power. It is such an interesting mix of history, engineering in terms of just technological feats, and there's a lot of really cool just kind of human interest stories that are tied into a lot of these different places. When I was over at talking with Mike Murphy this morning, the owner of the Lockport Cruises, he was telling me a story of a lady who had donated an American flag on her 100th birthday. Her father had been a canal boat operator, and she was actually born on one of the canal boats. So she had kept this flag for nearly, and it used to fly on the boat, and she kept it all this time, and on her 100th birthday she'd come over and had a celebration at his place and donated this flag. And unfortunately she had passed away a few months later on, but as one of her last final gestures was to think of her fondness of the canal and go back to where she was born.
I'm Judy Naylor, and I shot the Town of Lockport Nature Trail. The Town of Lockport has just started to develop a system of parks, and this was the very first one that they opened in 2001. The whole area of it is about 112 acres, the entire parkland area, nature preserve, I guess is what they're calling it. You start walking down a dirt road and you come to kind of a clearing area where a lot of the trails move off from. And then there's a choice of different sections you can go into. The trails loop around. Some areas, like one section, will take you right down by the waterfall. There are benches in the park where you can just walk down next to the waterfall and just kind of sit by there and just kind of enjoy it. It was really very nice. I mean, I spent several hours actually just wandering around and just really enjoying it. When you're there for a while, I mean, you start to walk back far enough, you're away from the road, you're away from the cars and the noise, and you almost can imagine that you're not really kind of in Lockport anymore. It feels like you're not really in the wilderness, but I mean, you're really out there enjoying nature, and it was really super. It's nice because it's good for families, I think, too, with small children, because the trails aren't really steep. There's not a lot of sharp drop-offs or anything. So it's easy to walk around. And I think a lot of times you think, well, a park has to have something, like dramatic, something like big and imposing and important. And yet this is, just the natural flora and fauna of this area. And it just gives you a chance to slow down and walk through it and really appreciate what you're really living with every day, but you maybe never took a chance to see.
My name is Elizabeth Figlioti, and I shot family businesses for this program. I did the Priority Nursing Home in Lockport and Lockport Mattress Company. The original house for the Priority Home was on Niagara Street in Lockport, and it's a big white building. It fit about 30 people, but as time went on, Her son took over the business later, and he realized it wasn't big enough for everyone, so they moved it on Lincoln Street. In the new Priorities Nursing Home, there's currently about 80 residents. And there was a dining room and a family room where people could relax and watch TV. They had a physical therapy room where people were working out. The Pine Grove Estates are assisted living homes for the elderly. They're a part of the Priority Nursing Home. They're still under construction right now. Lockport Mattress Company was a company started in 1995 by Randy Pagan with 4 other people at the time. It has now grown to about 6 stores. The factory is in Lockport, and we currently have about 30 employees. We get all of our supplies shipped in, and then we quilt our own fabric now, and we go through the entire process. We cut the fabric, we sew it, then downstairs the guys build them, literally, and you can watch them being made. Our showroom is on the main floor, and we have about 12 models of mattresses that we produced. Our stores, there's one in Buffalo, Hamburg, Niagara Falls, Amherst, and yeah, we do Niagara County, Erie County, pretty much Western New York.
My name is Dennis Steirer, and I'm a photographer for the Lockport Union Senate Journal, and the topic that I chose was restaurants of Lockport. First restaurant that I visited was DeFilippo's restaurant. They're on West Avenue, and they've been around since the middle 40s, like 46 I think they started, when Jerry DeFilippo's father and mother opened the restaurant. It was actually a hotel long before then, and Jerry's mom was very famous for her spaghetti sauce, so they decided to open a restaurant, and it's been around ever since. Danny Sheehan's opened in 1960. Danny and Betty Sheehan opened the restaurant, and its current owners is Mike and Chris Ennis, and they took it over in, I think, 2000. They have a very extensive menu of fine foods, great wines, and they're very well known for their rack of lamb and steak dinners, and it's a wonderful restaurant to visit in the evening. The next stop is Garlock's Restaurant, which was opened in 1962 by Harold Jig Garlock. Everybody called him Jiggy. And the current owner is Nancy Long. And Garlock's Restaurant is very, very well known for their open steak sandwich in Western New York. And they have a tremendous prime rib, and it's a smaller restaurant, but it's very, very quaint and nice, and the atmosphere is just absolutely marvelous there. Chet's Doghouse is the oldest family-run restaurant, I think, in Lockport right now. It was opened in 1938 by Chesley Sechrist. Little Chet, what we call him now, he's Chet David Sechrist, which is his grandson. He's the third generation that's running the operation now. It's a pure slice of Americana. I mean, you want to know what's going on, you go to Chet's for breakfast or lunch, because you're always going to find somebody there. There's always somebody stopping by to chit-chat or have a cup of coffee and a piece of pie, and it's just a great little diner right on Main Street in downtown Lockport. We're very fortunate to have some of the finest restaurants in Western New York. Not only that, we have a tremendous variety, and they're all within 5 or 10 minutes of each other. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, there's no need for most Lockportians to travel outside the city to go to a good restaurant.
Marion Hannigan, and I concentrated on youth volunteerism. Youth services, but especially youth volunteerism, and it's alive and very well in Lockport. There's an after-school program called the Advantage After School Program that's sponsored by the YWCA, and they're actually in 5 different schools where I saw kids involved in homework. There's a place and help for them with their homework, mentoring one another. They were playing games. They have the use of the gymnasium. The Teen Leaders Club, headed by Josie Porth, is incredible. They are available for every organization in Lockport who need volunteers. They do any of the walks for cancer, diabetes, etc. They painted the mural that is on Market Street on the way down the hill. It's called the Great Wall of Lockport, and the mural was designed and hand painted by those teenagers. And the Key Club, the volunteers from Lockport Senior High, they're involved in recycling. They do babysitting for the Center for Young Parents here in Lockport. They help with a variety of fundraisers. The Lockport Youth Bureau, with Paul Foster as its director, they have a computer room, and they can work on a project, they can do their homework. St. John's is another youth group. They're busy all year. Last summer, they held a work camp, and teenagers came here from all over the country, and they repaired houses, they built ramps for handicapped access, and the kids had a great time while they were doing this as well. They're receiving the training that they need for life, not just in volunteerism, but they're building leadership skills which will only serve our community well.
Oh, my name's Jim Slowey, and today I shot the Keenan indoor soccer program. Actually, it's a soccer program that's indoors and outdoors, but right now we're in the middle of a indoor session. I also shot today, went up to shoot a little bit at Lockport Little League. Our soccer program is basically a house program, and we also have a travel program that travels around Western New York. And they range from ages 4 and 5 of a clinic all the way up to our senior teen division, which is 15 to 18 years old. One thing unique about our program in Lockport is that everybody's encouraged to come in as an individual and sign up. Where in most places, they're mostly the facilities, you have to come in with a team. You bring a team into play, and you pay X amount of dollars to put a team in. You play against other teams, but we just invite anybody that wants to come in, register, and we'll put you on a team. Lockport Little League has a great history. They're going to be going into their 48th year this year in Lockport. The kids range from 5 years old, playing t-ball, baseball, all the way up through probably high school age kids through 18 years old. It's just great to see the young kids having fun, learning a game, and also, these kids will come back in the future and hopefully make the Lockport a stronger place.
My name's Patty Rockwood, and I'm Linda Roberts, and we decided to focus on the agency that we work for, the Dale Association, which is a senior center, and we do a lot of community ed and enrichment programs. We have a small staff that works at the center and certainly provides instruction in particularly arts and crafts. Our arts and crafts coordinator is remarkable. But then we bring in people from the community. One of our instructors is Kathy Giles, and she's a local watercolorist that's really become rather well known and has won some local awards. We have fencing at the Dale. We're the only other place other than the fencing club in Buffalo where you can get fencing instruction. One of the programs that we show is the HISTOP program, and that's history sharing through our photographs, and that's senior volunteers and fourth graders from all the community schools. We go, a team of seniors goes to like one school one week and shows pictures of their life and talks about when they were children. And then the next week, the children all come to the center, and we have all the seniors, and the children are the ones that are in the spotlight, and they bring their things. Everybody enjoys it. The children enjoy it, the seniors enjoy it, the staff gets involved in it,
and what's worked out nicely with that program is the kids come in fourth grade, and that's their first exposure to us. But then as they go through school, they'll come back to us, and they will do different service projects for us. So it's been very rewarding to see them come in fourth grade all the way through. We get kids coming in that are doing college internships. So it's nice to see them then giving back to the center. It's very important that people feel their self-worth regardless of what their age is, whether they are fourth graders coming in and sharing their little bit of history, or a 90-year-old that's still feeling that he or she can contribute to the community. I mean, it's very important to the quality of life to be able to offer those kinds of things.
My name is Dennis Kitchen. I've chosen to videotape the library, the Lockport Public Library, and Delphi. Delphi is a huge employer here. Over 4,000 folks are employed. It's gone through a lot of changes in the recent past. They've changed the name. They've actually merged with another division of Delphi. Before they were just thermal components, things like radiators and condensers and heaters, air conditioners, all those sorts of items. And they've now merged with another part of the division that makes interiors, so dashboards, the control knobs for the radiators and the air conditioners and those things. So it made sense, I guess, to put them together. Well, that's, create a lot of change for us. For the foreseeable future, there's going to be plenty of work for those who are assembling these items and for the engineers that design them. You can't overestimate the importance to this community financially, culturally. We rely on it heavily. The thing that strikes you when you first go to the Lockport Public Library is just the appearance of it. It's gorgeous. It's got just a lot of very classic wood paneling and furniture, leather furniture, and gorgeous paintings, statues. The facility is large and warm and inviting. So it's just a treat to go in there. It's a living museum. After that, you're knocked out by all the technology. There's really up-to-date computers in there, great DVD collection of first-run stuff, great music collection, been able to find any artist that I'm interested in. Another really unique thing about that library is they have a collection of paintings and prints that you can check out. You can, rifle through this collection of paintings and actually check them out and have a different painting in your living room every week or every month. One thing that's very unique about their reference department is a local history room.
It's the old Lockport High School, people fondly remember. But we do have the Forum, that was one of the yearbooks. We have Lockport High School, DeSales, and we also have vertical file material mostly on Lockport issues or individuals that are needed for students or by students throughout the year. And the librarians are here to help anyone who's searching. We do have also some city directories in this room and some local authors and some maps.
So who would be some local authors that would be
Oh, Joyce Carol Oates comes to mind, of course, right away. Very, very famous, probably our most famous local author, and mentions Lockport in her books quite frequently, so we try to make sure we have at least every one of hers. So it's kind of an eclectic collection, but we're building.
I have a 7-year-old boy, and we always hit the basement first where they keep all the children's materials. And he has access to a lot of same materials, types of materials that I do. They have a CD collection just for kids, a movie section just for kids, and we always walk out of there with a bundle of material that's for him. There's just a special feeling you get when you come out the front doors of that library and you come into this little couple of blocks of City Street, and you've got the YMCA right next to that. Just its presence there, its accessibility, its appearance, it's a source of pride.
Well, my name is George Fritz, and I shot the Palace Theater, which is near and dear to the hearts of anyone who's lived any time in Lockport, New York. And I just remember when I used to go there when I was a kid with my sister Charlotte. On Saturday mornings, we'd go see the cartoons, and just so awe-inspiring, just walking in. And I probably spent as much time looking at the ceiling, with the beautiful murals and all the scroll work and the brass, and as I did looking at the cartoons. The Palace was primarily a movie house. The first movie ever shown there, opening day, was The Ten Commandments, Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments. Although in the early days they also showed vaudeville acts, and John Philip Sousa performed there, and some famous acts. I remember when I was a kid, it was just rare occasions they'd open the balcony. It was like an extra special treat to be able to sit up there. I suppose because they thought we'd be throwing popcorn over the edge or something devious like that. Now the balcony is usually open because they usually have a full house. And it's just so awe-inspiring to sit up there and see the whole view of the theater, all the architecture and all the artwork, in its full grandeur, and be able to see a production in that setting. Now it's become a real focal point for the community. Several times over the course of history, we were in danger of losing the palace, and the most recent occasion was in the fall of 2003, where we were faced with the challenge of raising $300,000 in 2.5 months without really any opportunity to plan for the fundraising. And it was such an amazing story because really all of Western New York came together and raised that money, and we did it, preserving it for future generations.
Broadcast of Our Town Lockport is made possible by the generous philanthropic support of the Greg Lewis Foundation. The Greg Lewis Foundation, supporting charities in Western New York for over 35 years. Sponsorship provided by
Lockport Mattress Company. We love to make your bed.
and by Grand Tours, offering nationwide deluxe motor coach charters, and Ridge Road Express providing local school bus service, owned and operated in the Lockport area for over 75 years. And by Lockport Community Cable Commission and Lockport Community Television, celebrating 20 years of providing quality local programming to area cable subscribers. Additional support provided by Pruden and Cant Funeral Home Incorporated. And by the members of WNED. Thank you.